All right, guys, so I got all the parts laid out. I'm going to be trying to build one of those bead breakers you see online, you know, the ones coming in from China. For some reason, they're super expensive, guys. So, as you know, I don't like paying for crap like that. So I'm going to build it myself. Got some heavy duty, looks like maybe 5/8 bar stock here. I have some square tubing, and square tubing, touch that one. And I have a 1-inch Acme thread and I believe a 1/2-inch threaded rod. I'm going to try, I didn't have the nut for this, but I figured it out. You just put a 1-inch, dial indicator across the threads, guys. This ended up being 6 threads per inch. There's a million videos you can watch on it, but basically you set the dial indicator at 1 inch wide, put it down, and from the one it touches to the one it lands on, each is a half a tooth, you say. And then you count the ones in the middle, you add the 2 halves. So I had 4, no, what did I say? It was 6 threads per inch. I had 5 in the middle, then you add a half and a half, you end up with 6 threads per inch, which ends up being a little weird for the 1 inch. 1 inch, they're usually 5 threads per inch, I've noticed. But anyway, as you can see here, this is going to have to go inside here. The nut I ordered is going to need to be welded to this. And I'm not really left with a ton of material. But I could probably grind it square, fit it in there, and then weld it. On the flip side, that's an Acme thread. As you guys know, an Acme, there's no stopping it. So basically, if I run an impact on this thing, no matter what, it's going to push that bottom arm down, or bottom tube, I should say. So this tube basically goes, luckily I had these that fit. That goes down inside that. I'll end up cutting them all to length. And then this is going to have a foot on the bottom of it. This will have feet on both sides. That locks to the rim. It's going to have an arm that locks over. And then this, when I turn, we'll use this one for an example here. That'll be something like that. When I put the impact on here, this white tube is going to get forced down because it's going to have the nut welded to it. So anyway, I mean, in theory, I'm almost feeling like a 3/4 inch Acme thread would be perfect for this. But like I said, I'm trying to use what I have. I ordered the nut for this, and it ended up being, with the shipping, like $20, which I thought was crazy expensive. But then again, everything nowadays is like off the charts in price. So that's why I'm building this thing to begin with. All right, so I got all this junk left over here. So I'm just going to make my first cut there. And then I actually found some measurements online, believe it or not. Looks like we're like a little over 10. So I'm going to make it 11 inches. And then that's going to be roughly how far down. So if I make it 11, I could probably push it down like 10, something like that. I don't have any rims that are close to that wide, so I should be good with that measurement. All right, we got this guy cut the size. I got the pipe fit in there. Pretty nice tight fit. Now I'm going to make the foot for the bottom of the white tube. Basically, I'm going to make it about as thick as this, I think. I'm going to look at the pictures again, what I see online. Then there's going to be 2 plates on the side here. I'll probably mock it up in cardboard first. And that's going to have there's almost like a foot that, has another adjustment here. And I'll definitely use the 1/2-inch threaded rod for that. That just locks this tool to the rim. And then the one back here pushes down to break the bead. So I'll measure. We'll take a quick measurement here. Looks like 1.5 inches, right? Then I'll mark 1.5 inches out of this. Cut that, and then probably mount that in the bridge port, or take a grinder and just make a nice slice on the front here to give it an angle. All right, we got it drawn up here. Made one mistake there, but this is the rough shape I'm going with. I'll get one cut out, then I'll flip it and just make sure it's roughly the same. I just freehand drew it. Then once I get it cut out, I'll lay it on here and I'll show you guys how it's gonna go, get welded on. All right, it's a rough idea how it's gonna go, guys. If you guys are familiar with this, I'm sure you're starting to see it taking shape. You know, there's gonna be that curved piece right here, and then the half-inch threaded rod will be something like this, and that'll push down and lock the whole tool to the rim. And then when I tighten this nut, this will be down here, obviously. That'll push that foot down that I was talking about. All right, guys, so I went with the grinder on this one. I basically just stood the bar stock upright, made a line just like that, but I ended up just moving it a little over. And I just took my time. I cut all the way down on one side, flipped it, cut all the way down the other side. My thinking for this was, if I put it in the Bridgeport first and milled it, you know, cut it square, then milled the edges, whatever, I'm just wasting all that metal and just removing it, and it's very time consuming. By cutting it this way, I gave myself an edge on both pieces, as you can see, obviously. So basically I have this piece, I'm gonna cut a mirror version of this one and then split it in half, and then now I have the two outside feet. Hopefully that makes sense, and as the video progresses, you'll see what I'm talking about. Man, was that hard to cut one-handed, guys. But, all right, I think now you guys will start to get the idea of how it's gonna work. Like I said earlier, this white tube is gonna push down on the middle foot. I'm going to cut this the exact length as that one, somewhere over here. Then I'm gonna split it right down the middle and then take both of those feet and weld, put one there, one on the other side, and then weld these on top and then to the black square tubing, excuse me. The outside feet are gonna lock to the rim. The middle foot is gonna push down and break the bead. All right, so the plan here now, guys, not gonna cut this off yet. I leave it attached to this large piece, so it kind of like holds it steady for me. And then what I could do, I'll show you guys in a minute. I can bring this off the edge like that. I could C-clamp it down, and then I have total control to make my slot, which, you know, I'm gonna do two-handed, not on camera. Make the slot all the way down, go past it a little bit, and then come and chop off both ends. And I should have minimal cleanup. Probably just hit the end here with the grinder first a little bit. And I'll do the same here just to get it to match. But for the most part, we're in good shape. All right, guys. So it's time like this. I really wish I had a small plasma cutter to use, but I'm doing it with the cutoff discs. And it's painfully slow, as you can see. I made this cut first. I'm gonna cut this down to here. Actually, I'll probably just cut straight across. This is a big enough piece that I could clamp it on the end of the bench. I'm gonna make this cut from the edge, that cut, and then put the grinder on top and slowly cut this down. All right, you can see it's starting to take shape now, guys. Got the side plates mocked up. Now I got a bunch of junk here that I kind of pieced together. I had these were from some sort of like bicycle racks or something. But I like this rubber piece. I'm waiting, you know, 20 years to use that. This was left over from when I cut these pieces out. I have no idea what this is, but it has a nice curve. I'm going to cut it where I drew the line there. And then this piece of shafting, I'm going to weld the keyway in. And then I'll bore it out, probably like a 3/8 bore, and I'll cut it down to fit in here. I'm going to have to drill a couple holes through this guy. And this is going to be the pivot point for the clamp. So basically, that's going to go like that. It'll get welded to the edge right there. And then this will get welded something like that. You know, I'll cut back some of the insulation so I don't burn it. And then what that'll do is, you know, if let's say the rim is painted or it's a nice aluminum rim, you don't want to dig into it. When this comes down, it's going to put pressure onto the rubber. Then what I have to do is figure out, you know, the mount will be somewhere maybe down here across with the 3/8 bolt. And then up here, I need to come up with a top plate. You know, I'm just grabbing some cardboard I had laying around, but maybe I'll end up with a plate going across the top, a hole, and then a nut, you know, on there. I showed you guys in the past, I don't know where my threaded rod is right now, but it's basically going to get, you know, a threaded rod right there, and that's going to push down on the arm. And then this, I might end up welding this like that for that threaded rod to push down right there. All right, guys, so once again, very undecided here. I have this piece of threaded rod with a nut already welded on the top, which I definitely do like. I have to find a nut that'll thread onto this. My problem is I don't love threaded rod from like Lowe's and Home Depot. Literally has the tensile strength of freaking toilet paper. And for this application, that's going to be the screw that pushes down on the clamp, this guy. So this is going to go like that, and that threaded rod or screw is going to push down there. I have this piece of 1/2 inch. So this is probably like, I don't know, 5/8, maybe 3/4, probably 5/8. This is 1/2 inch. It's fine coarse, and it's a hold down clamp for a milling machine. But anyway, it's bent. You guys could probably see it just by me turning it. But the threads are still perfect. I just have to quickly decide which I'm gonna rather use. I'm sure I could come up with a nut for this quickly and use this guy. With this one, this is welded already. I'll probably just add to it a little on the backside. I just need to cut it for the length I want, and then the nut's gonna get welded on the top plate up here. This guy, I have this nut already. I don't have a nut welded on here. So what I'll probably do is cut this off, grind that a little bit, find another nut, slide it over, and weld it. But let me think about this for a minute, and I'll get right back to you. All right, guys, I'm going with the machine bolt. I'm gonna show you, hopefully, how to straighten that in a minute. I found this nut, and it's a nice fit over these threads. But it seems to have like some solder. I guess it was soldered onto something years ago. I'm gonna try first with the little map gas, secondary with the grinder just to clean it up, and then I'm gonna see about welding it onto here after I straighten it. All right, yeah, that's not doing much, so we're gonna slice it off. So I basically just set up the hold down rod here in between two V blocks. I'm not that worried about the threads. I'm not using this side at all. And this side, of worst case scenario, I could cut it off. What I did was And I might move this V-block to right here because it seems like the bend is right there. So, you know, do my best to do this one-handed. Obviously, if I put that there, it's not going to mar anything. And then I'll just catch the edge on this one. I tried to put the nut where it is because I don't want to hit it with the hammer in that spot. But there's a few ways to do this. I could try it with the hammer, and you know, most guys, that's the easiest. You guys could probably see the bow up right there. I could wrap these threads, just this side, with copper, which I have some very flexible copper, and I might do that just because what the heck. But if you have a hydraulic press, which I do, this is tailor-made for a hydraulic press, guys. So I'm gonna pack this up, bring it into my other shop, and show you how I press it straight on the press. We're over here on the press. Got the V-block set up, and I just found this little piece of corrugated aluminum. I threw that on there. That'll just keep the threads looking nice. I got what I think is the bow facing up, and I'm gonna just go nice and easy. Hopefully I have enough reach here. If not, as you guys know, I just have to pull this off and move these pins up one. But I think with this extension on here, I might just make it. And then what you guys want to do is you push it down until it's straight, which in theory you think would be perfect. But steel has what's called a spring back to it, guys. So I want to go maybe a couple of you know, cranks on the handle, pass straight, and then when I let go, it'll spring back up to hopefully be perfect. There we go. Okay, you can see I actually pushed it down right there. So that was just one pass tight. Hopefully I let go. Did you guys see it spring back up? Man, that looks perfect. I'm gonna pull it off and we'll inspect it on the bench. All right, guys, we're gonna call that good enough. It still might have a slight bow to it, but I'm definitely, you know, cutting it short anyway. So this little piece in here is not gonna be a problem. All right, guys, I got the keyway filled in. I'm gonna just take the grinder, try to just kind of round it off a little bit, and then I'm gonna stick it in the lathe and bore the 3/8 hole through it. So I clamped the side plates to the center post here, guys. I still have that round bar stock in the lathe. I just finished drilling the holes. And then I'm just taking a quick measurement. I wasn't sure, you know, if this piece of square stock is going to be 2 inches, but it pretty much is. You know, I'll just go a hair under because I don't want it to bind up. All right, so we got that welded on. Nothing crazy, guys. I left this just tacks down here because I'm not positive. I mean, I'm praying it's going to stay like this, but not 100% positive. But we do have a nice fit over here. Hopefully I could show you guys. I just have to figure out where the bolt hole is going to go. You know, probably be somewhere down here. And then I got to do the top plate and the nut, as I said earlier. That'll just be like that. All right, so I drilled this top plate off camera here. This is gonna go right here, guys. You know, the ones you see online, they're all fancy for no reason. I'm just gonna make a flat plate, tie it into the upright posts, and weld it to both sides. I found this piece. Seems to be a pretty good fit. Like I've said to you guys a million times. If you have a much larger piece like this, it's a lot easier to drill. Because if I show you guys, come over to my drill press here. You can, this did fit in my vise, barely. And it's very easy to hold. Plus you have the leverage back here in case it wants to spin, right? But if I move the vise out of the way, I could just as easily clamp it down and drill it on the table. So always leave the piece as big as you can. We'll come back over now and I'll show you guys how it's gonna go here. So that's gonna go like that. And then this is gonna go through here. Of course, I ended up with the phone in my left hand somehow. All right, now we're gonna cut that off next, and then we're gonna weld that nut on there, and then that's gonna push down on that locking arm that we've been talking about. All right, guys, we laid some beads on the bottom here. It's looking pretty good. I left this C-clamp to the upright post, and you know, you're definitely gonna get warping doing it like this, guys. The alternative would have been, you know, to tack it in a few spots, pull it all apart, tack the inside, but I have to pull it apart and grind a V on the inside anyway, because I'm gonna put that weld in there, if that makes sense. This piece will be gone. And then I have to grind it back flat because this has to be able to slide up in between both of these once we're done. All right, so you should have a better understanding of what I meant before. I just put a nice V with the grinder in both of these. I'm gonna fill it in with weld, make a fast pass across, get a nice penetration, and then I'm gonna grind it back to being flat. Nothing fancy, guys. Just did a little whip kind of movement with the torch, going, you know, forwards, up a little bit, and then kind of back and back into the groove. And I turned the heat up and the speed up one click on the MIG from where I had it previously, because I kind of wanted to just go fast and I didn't want it raised up too much. So more penetration on this. You can see I got it pretty good there. There I'll probably just hit it in the front a little bit, but otherwise looking pretty good. All right, it's looking pretty good, guys. This is able to slide up. Like I was telling you guys before, you know, you always get warpage when you're welding. So these did not slide down over the center foot at first. I had to just grind a little bit off each side of the centerpiece until I got it. Now it's pretty good. The other thing now is these two pieces kind of warped in a little bit. So this guy's not fitting anymore. I'm just gonna lay this on the bench sideways, grind some of that off, grind some of that off, and then I'll fit it back in. So I chucked this up in the lathe, guys. Surprisingly super easy to machine. And I just brought it down to the same diameter as the inside of these two washers. This washer started life like this, and it's still a little hot, but hopefully you guys get the idea. This washer is gonna go over the Acme like that, right? And then this one is gonna get welded to the bottom. The square one is gonna slide down in the tube. The round one, I'm gonna weld to the top. So basically, the shoulder on this is gonna push down onto the first washer. That'll push the foot down. And then to pull it back up, it's gonna pull against this one that's welded on the bottom, and we should be good. All right, guys, I got the two washers on there. The small washer, I just put some tacks around in a circle, and then what I did was I chucked it back up in the lathe, and I just, you know, cut it back to be a perfect circle again. And the small one fits inside nice like that. It'll turn, and then the top one I'm gonna weld fully around. And this way, you know, when I push down, I push down on this thick washer. There we are. And then the bottom one is really just to pull it back up when you're done. So nothing crazy here. All right, guys, here she is, the final version. I quickly off camera just cut this down a little bit, shortened it. It was clamping down kind of funny. So now it kind of clamps a little below the surface. You can see like that. It seems to be working pretty good. Now, mind you guys, this is literally the worst rim I've ever had probably in my life. And these beads on these old Honda ATC tires and rims, it's like they're almost welded. The rubber is welded to the metal. They're literally impossible. I've never broken a bead on one ever. But I have a feeling that this guy's going to work. I'm going to try to set this up here. I got this little mini tripod. I'm going to see if I could put it like right there and see if I could get you guys a live action feed of this guy in action. All right, guys, this will be a miracle in itself if this camera stays where I just put it. So I'm going to back this out a little bit. I'm going to kind of get this below the rim there. And then run this down to lock it. Okay, should be good. Take the big impact, we'll run it down. That's an epic fail, but I definitely had the bead down. Yeah, let's try that one more time. It was like, man, at the last second it just slipped. I put this piece on here with the rubber because I didn't want to scratch up if I end up using it on aluminum rims. These rims I don't really care, but it seemed like the rubber slipped all of a sudden. We run that up. This guy. Let's try it like that now. Got it under there a little better, I think. Nice and tight. All right, I don't know if you guys could see that, but it's 100% off the bead right there. I might go grab some tire irons and just see if I could kind of wiggle it and get it to slide down. And I'll be honest, I might just have to keep doing this around in 4 spots till I get it completely broken. But it seems to be working. This is staying caught, not really by much, but it's pretty good. And this is kind of like folding the rubber as it pushes down, but I really don't care as long as it somehow breaks it. I think one drawback to this, my design, is I made these feet too thick. I think looking back, I would have definitely made them like half the thickness metal. But I'm going to keep messing with this one and I'll see if I can get it to work perfectly. All right, guys, so I just worked it around with this big pry bar I got, and it came right off. Oh, definitely call that a success.